All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for
My Hero Academia, Season 5, Episode 12.
The
The competitions are done. Class 1A has emerged victorious.
Yes, indeed. And we had our really cool, explosive development with Deku's connection to One for All and the past incarnations quirks.
Right, including specifically Black Whip.
Yeah, specifically just Black Whip.
Right.
But the connection essentially being made that there could be as many as 6 new quirks that he'll be developing through One for All. Crazy development. Something that we weirdly enough almost feels like it should have been that way all along.
Right, yeah.
And yet, no, maybe not. Maybe not.
But we have had other things established in this season, stuff with Endeavor and that whole, Todoroki family.
Hawks.
But then also Hawks and, Dodley. And, definitely not Toya.
All for One potentially being
That's
more just patient in Tartarus.
And whatever that whole thing was of knowing what the security guards were talking about and all that stuff.
Yeah. So, y'all, without further ado, let's get into this. All right, everyone, now be sure to go check out the reaction portion of the video in the description below, then come back here for the discussion. All right, well, that's the end of that.
Yep.
We have a lot of just kind of wholesome good times with a lot of the characters just getting to kind of talk about what happened, what they've learned from each other, how they've grown, and we had some really sweet little engagements there.
Yeah.
We had the little bit with Eri getting brought back up, and
that was awesome because with a quirk like Monama's and with the fact that he touched Deku during the competition, right, and then it's like, well, what happens, right? Because the talk about quirk singularities, definitely, but also just with how crazy quirks can be, there are some combinations where it's like, wait, does that just break reality?
Does that break the meta? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But
and
it's like
no, if there's something to do with stockpiling. He can't use it because that stockpiling itself is not something that he hasn't done. Exactly. Right. So the quirk itself, it makes sense in terms of the fact that what his quirk is not all the experience and time that's come about to evolve the quirk. But at its base level, it's still the same quirk.
But seeing that the characters are like still trying to solve the sort of the issue that Eri is in from previous arcs, that's great because it makes the world feel like it's big and keeps on turning, and just because someone isn't the main focus of the conflict currently, that doesn't mean they don't exist anymore, right? That like people are still trying to help them and talk to them and things like that, and trying something out like that of, hey, Monoma, how does your quirk work? Like, could we have you teach Eri how to hone her own quirk? Like, that's great. That's something that people would think of if they were in this world.
Water, fire, air, earth, magnets. How do they work? Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Monoma's quirk, insert there. The big development, though, this episode really is the discussion surrounding One for All.
Yeah.
And One for All is a quirk that we've now had a bit of the lid kind of popped off on. There's a lot that could be gotten into that's different in terms of our understanding of it because of the quick deduction, and I very much appreciate that this was basically confirmed with the way they talked about it, that it was an external thing that brought about this incident.
Right.
It was not Deku having some great mastery or some mental thing with regards to Shinso's quirk. What's cool about that is that means that this is something that could almost never have happened, theoretically, if All For One didn't do something like this.
Which also means then that Deku is a good kind of like potential, danger light.
Exactly.
Of like, if One For All starts acting up, maybe we should check in on All For One again.
Yeah, maybe we should check in on All For One. Maybe we should also keep Deku in a safer environment. One of the things that I think is very, very likely in general is that Deku will get targeted specifically in like upcoming arcs and stuff like that.
Makes sense.
That just makes sense, right? But not the Shigaraki targets Deku, because there's a relationship there. They know each other.
He's already done that.
Yeah, he's already done that. I'm talking about the kind of thing where All For One is like, okay, I'm going to make a move here. I'm not going to leave Tartarus. In fact, I'm protected in Tartarus.
Yep.
Because you guys can't run the risk of coming in to stop me, because then I might
truly
get out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they take it into the... If All For One's situation is taken in kind of like a Kingpin Daredevil Season 3 direction, I would absolutely love that.
We would eat that.
Yeah. Like, and if you haven't seen the Netflix Daredevil series, watch it. It's fantastic. It's
great
really good superhero stuff.
Yeah.
But as far as All For One as a... not as a character, but as a force.
As a threat.
Yeah, right. As an existence in this world, it's kind of one that can't be ignored, right? You can pretend that he's in Arkham Asylum and all that stuff.
Run from it.
Yeah.
Destiny still arrives.
Exactly. He is inevitable. And at some point, they're going to have to properly deal with him, right? Because you can't just keep someone like that locked up forever.
I mean, I think at this point, he's kind of won in that regard. He's just going to have a moment where he decides, okay, now it's Shigaraki's turn.
Sure.
You know, he's going to have his dark All Might moment, but for Shigaraki.
Right.
And it's really like it's weird how right we were without even really like knowing
the
any of
details.
this, is that it really is going to be Shigaraki versus Deku endgame.
Yeah.
And if Shigaraki is, endgame and Deku is endgame, now Deku could have his All For One equivalent power at that point.
Right.
Where he has 6 or 7 quirks or whatever.
And maybe All For One has passed on everything single one of his
to
quirks.
Shigaraki.
Or, wait, actually, no. Wait, hold on. Is that why he does the experiments on the Nomus? Figuring out.
We've talked about that.
Right, but it might be specifically to preface Shigaraki. We've talked about that.
We've talked about that a long time.
Okay.
Nomus are very much the what is my limitations and that.
Right. Could I actually
from
pass
passing
this on?
things on without breaking someone's brain? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. In the same way that One For All could break someone's body if they're not prepared for
it. And that's just with the strength enhancing, stuff. Well, not even getting into all the other quirks that apparently haven't even been a thing.
In a lot of ways, it's a giant mystery box, and that's something that can be gotten into. So the fact that Bakugo was brought into the discussions, I very much like this, because he kind of quickly jumps to the simplest and most logical conclusions.
Yes.
In a way that is founded in, logic. So they can look at this and go, yep, you're
Makes
right,
sense.
Bakugo.
We didn't want to, All Might's like, I didn't want to mention that because I was hoping that wouldn't be the case, but
you're probably right. Yep. And if this is then something where Deku is dealing with the students, like Todoroki showing up and being like, wow, you have a second quirk. That's fantastic. You're like me. I totally get it. There's an actual serious discussion to be had that Deku should actually leave UA.
Sure.
Because he's just going to become He's going to
paint a target on the backs of all the other students around him.
Yeah, and it's not even going to be a small thing. It's going to be the fact that the students themselves will be just casually mentioning the kid in UA that has multiple quirks. Yep. Even if you say, Deku, that
it's just one quirk that's evolving.
It's more one thing that's it. No. All it takes is a rumor that goes to someone's parents, that those parents talk about at work, that spreads to it. Right. This is
and that's for people outside the League of Villains, right?
Yes,
the League of Villains,
exactly.
They don't need to figure any of this out, right?
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
No, they probably are pretty doggone close. It's just a question of how much All For One has actually told Shigaraki about what One For All really is. So, that's all its own thing there.
One of the things I want to point out, though, since we had Bakugo getting brought into the conversation with All Might and Deku, one of the things that I've kind of been waiting to see happen, and we got a scare or a foreshadowing of it potentially this episode, is that what happens when All Might actually dies. Because All Might is not All Might anymore in that sense, right? He's
in the superhero sense.
Right, in the superhero sense that, the hero All Might is gone, right?
Yeah.
But what happens when the person All Might dies, right? And he almost did Bakugo saved him, right? Because he went to go save the lady, but you're just a regular dude now, All Might. You know, you can't actually really dive and, you know, knock someone out of the way of a falling lamppost or whatever.
Or high-pressured cutting laser water.
Yep. You'll get cut in half, right? While I would hate to see it, and it would break my heart to see All Might die, I do kind of want that to happen.
I still...
Because it would break my heart, and I love to have stories break my heart.
Yeah.
But I also... That would be so crazy to see Deku and Bakugo then be needing to talk about stuff because no one else is there to sort of make them talk together, you know?
I mean... Eventually, Deku's just gonna talk to himself, dude.
That's totally
that's the Avatar
yes.
kind of thing they've got going on here. Is that he's got past lives that will
But as for kind of like the peer, not like one of the other teachers like Aizawa or something, but like the peer where they can be kind of like that
emotional,
odd couple,
vulnerable.
They're in the know about each other's issues.
I really like All Might way too much in the role that he's in, and he's still one of my favorite characters, maybe even my favorite character. So I cannot
you don't want to entertain that thought?
Wish or entertain any thoughts about him dying. I think that in a lot of ways, if we think about it from the villain's perspective, I could even see All For One having a literal no-kill order on All Might.
Sure.
Because he's like, nope, I need to have him see all this. I need to have him quirkless in front of me and have that moment like, you know, in the past. Where I put my hand on him and, you know, make him mine, basically.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
What if All For One turned All Might into a Nomu? That would be so...
Because I wanted to bring up some of the things that are previous things we've talked about, but just bring them back up again. If All For One is influencing One For All, we have to think about this in terms of the origins of One For All. It was given to the brother from, you know, All For One. But that was just the quirk that he gave him.
Right.
The younger brother still had the quirk. That quirk then mixed with the other one there. That's what we know.
Yep.
But what we don't know is, why is it that giving a quirk to someone else back then didn't have any negative repercussions?
Because it was just giving the one quirk.
Yes, but he already had a second quirk.
Right. So I'm guessing it's probably a little bit different when like giving
both of them came from him versus having two to begin with. I don't know, man.
Because if the person has the one quirk, their body is probably adapted to be able to handle that quirk just fine, and then having one extra quirk added in is like the threshold, I guess, for like what it can handle. I don't know, but that is something that they could definitely get into and explore.
Yeah, and while I do acknowledge that he's not intentionally trying to make a Nomu necessarily, he probably didn't even have an idea of what a Nomu was at that point. But still, the idea that now he's making Nomus, which seem to be exactly that, experiments for the idea of passing on quirks. Why is he failing in that regard? Is it that the Nomus are all quadruple, quintuple, sextuple quirks in one, and that's why they're failing necessarily? And just we haven't seen other than High End a really, really, really smart Nomu.
That's true.
And High End was recent in the story,
so the experience might be starting to get better.
They're trending in a good direction. But I am wondering if one of All For One's quirks, just that he's had picked up more recently, is something where there's a quirk that he's passing on, you know, but it's still his. Like, what is ownership of a quirk? If you have someone that can copy, if you have someone that can become another person and use their quirk,
right?
What is ownership of a quirk even mean? Especially if you can pass it on within another quirk.
Like, could All For One get to the point where he can pass on a quirk without giving it up himself?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, could there be some wacky quirk out there that people think is just not a quirk, but it's actually like you can multiply quirks or something. I don't know, right? Something like that.
Yeah, or just the idea of removing a quirk's, whatever it is from your body, but still being able to activate it. The idea that Monoma basically kind of, it feels almost relevant. I'm reaching here. The idea that Monoma, has a bunch of quirks available, but he can only use one at a time, right?
Yeah.
But he put one out there, and is their effect.
Right. If you had a Monoma quirk in All for One, could they copy another quirk that they have for the 5 minutes or whatever, and then take that copy and then pass it to somebody?
Yeah, exactly.
And then would it then become permanent? Exactly. There are all kinds of things that can happen once you get into the no. Quirks can get really wacky and esoteric, right? And the whole idea of the quirk singularity is exploring that topic, right?
Right.
So, the rabbit hole can go as deep as the writer wants, right? There is no limit to what can happen.
Yeah, and there are rules that they've established in general, and that's why moments like this in the story kind of need to happen. Is it's basically a very obvious way of saying, hey, our rules, our world does have rules,
right?
And these are the ways we can kind of make sure it doesn't get completely out of hand.
It'll get wacky, but it will still have some sense
boundaries,
to it. Right?
It'll have boundaries, basically.
Yep.
So another little just kind of casual thing this episode, just as an aside here, was we actually finally saw Endeavor again. And,
yes.
Shoto wanted to learn a move from him that was a fire move.
Yep.
And while he's gripping a villain's neck or whatever, he's just oh. He looks so proud. He's like, my son wants to learn my flash heat move, my flash fire move from me.
I would not be surprised at all if he turned to the guy and he's like, so my son is, blah, blah, blah. And he starts having this whole conversation with him and he's just like,
I have a son, Stormtrooper. I have a sunlight speed.
Yeah,
exactly. I could totally see that. I love that isn't, it doesn't feel like we've come over some big hill or anything.
Right. It's in a lot of ways it's utilitarian on Shoto's angle because it's the
gotcha.
Because it's the I tried to do a thing with this quirk and I wasn't able to. Right. So I'm going to ask the person that gave birth to me for help with this thing, not as a bonding experience type deal, but because I do genuinely need his help. And that's something where it's the I'm not saying the relationship is fixed or anything. You still have a long way to go, but I trust you enough and I can stand your presence enough that the idea of having you teach me things when that was such a traumatic experience.
Exactly. That was what I was
I think I can handle that.
Right.
That's progress. That's
a
lot of progress.
It's a cool way to show progress because it's done over text, so we don't know the actual bounds and limits as to how he will teach him. It might be literally over Zoom, where it's like, nope, you are not actually going to be in close proximity to me while you're using your quirk, and I'm being trained to use mine.
Here's what you can do for
too much trauma, and I might just freeze you to death. Sorry, that's just I'm that strong now.
And I think I actually could.
And then
do
Endeavor's like, son, you don't even know what true power is, but that's okay. I will make you feel wonderful. And yes, you are so strong at this point. Yes, son. Yes, absolutely, son.
Right. It's the positive reinforcement that Endeavor probably doesn't have any practice in,
but he's got some practice.
He has all the desire and intent to
watch me.
Right. Exactly.
Little funny asides. What the hell were they forcing Monoma to watch? Mineta.
Yeah.
What they brainwashing like visual torture?
It was I don't know. A video I figured it was probably just one of those sexual harassment guideline videos or something, like from, I don't know, some company or something like that. Okay, if you want to be in the workplace, then here you go, right? Or,
you're going to be a pro hero, Mineta.
Right. Here's the contract, here's the requirements for the job, one piece of paper. here's the
regulations
on sexual harassment. Yeah.
Well, no. This is just regulations of that in general. This subsection here, that's sexual harassment. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Don't do that. All right. Next, little just kind of funny aside here. Bakugo was given a ridiculous amount of lines this episode, surprisingly.
Yes.
It was almost really sweet how many kind of little moments and lines he got there. But the idea that him, All Might, and Todoroki were just driving away maybe from the place that they had just gotten their exam done, and almost immediately after that, it's let's go be heroes.
That was such a.
That was so cool.
That was such a dad taking the boys into the backyard and throwing the football around.
It felt so much like, okay, sons, now make sure that you be careful, look both ways before crossing the street. Oh, there you go, sons.
Oh my God!
It was really wholesome. Bakugo,
super campy, in the best way. But super campy. But it felt really disjointed. With the way it was edited, I would just say into the episode, but it was almost like it's a mystery of who these people are, and it's like, wait, no, we can
tell their voices.
Yeah, their voices are pretty distinct.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought for a second actually that the one on top of the wave, someone else was using the wave, the water quirk. The hair and everything, I'm like, that's not Shigaraki. Shigaraki's skin is way more cracked than that.
Yeah.
But it was that light blue kind of hair.
See, Shigaraki would never have his hair looking that good.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Because he can't, it's hard to, yeah.
What do you mean? He totally could.
He could totally
be like, Togo, hairbrush. To be like, okay.
That's true. No, that's a knife. That's a razor blade. Oh yeah, my bad.
You liked it with the knife, though.
But
Twice I like it with the knife. You're into everything, Twice.
I'm not sure if I want more or less of villains with really powerful quirks doing really petty crimes.
Yeah, that was almost comical.
It was totally comical. Yes, they even did the boom, stuff on the screen and stuff.
Bakugo,
right,
doing his super salvo combo of I held back.
Right, and so it's yes, I'm all for comedy. At the same time, I'm like, but is that maybe a bit too comical?
No, never.
No,
never. Yeah. Never. It's more just can we frame it better in a comedic way or in a comical way before we get into that?
Right.
Because otherwise I'm like, whoa, this is super serious. What's going on here? And I'm like, it's them being heroes out, and then we meet this really wholesome hero who's like, oh, I'm the sliding hero, basically.
Yeah.
I've got what are those roller wheel shoes? Yeah. Basically, he's just that's my court, and he just kind of rolls, and he's just like,
oh man,
I can get around efficiently. I can get around in a green way. I don't use.
Eventually, we're gonna get the Segway hero or something like that. It just rolls around, but. Oh my God.
It's how fast do you go? 9 miles an hour. Can't human beings run 13, 15 miles an hour pretty casually if they're super, super athletic? So wouldn't it just be... But see, the thing is, this is use stamina. Mm-hmm. But if you just train your body, you'll use less stamina when you run. And, you're not going to be needing to run probably for more than a mile anyway, so...
Now that I think about it, though... When Deku met All Might literally went after a slime monster that stole a lady's purse.
It's true.
Now, granted, it then started to try and possess Deku and all that stuff, and that was freaky.
Him.
Yeah. But it did start from something as small and petty as that. So,
and the lady was unharmed because she had a freaking force field quirk. Right. So this is just a crazy, wacky world where...
You have a crazy flood tear through a city. No one died. It's fine.
People need to just get by. And Bakugo's line of, get a working job!
Yeah. Okay, that was fantastic. But I gotta say, Todoroki, you need to step up your game because Shoto, my man.
That blew. That was on the level of an Avatar: The Last Airbender. It was just
Azula versus the Kyoshi Warriors, and it's don't you know fans just make flames stronger? It's like
Azula.
No,
you're better than
just
that. You
please
can do so much better.
Don't yes, your carbonated water is now flat because it got heated up.
What are you, the Avatar's fangirls?
Right. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. But
yeah, it was good fun. Doesn't seem to be any like big things to take away into the next episode,
other than the All for One stuff.
The All for One stuff.
I wanted to get into that.
Happens.
Yeah.
Something big there. So, y'all, thank you so much for watching this episode's reaction and discussion. If you want to see a full-length timer version of this reaction, go check out the link in the description below. For our Patreon, you can get an early access there. You can watch full-length timer reactions there, and all this comes with Discord access, so you can chat with us in the community there about this show, about anime in general, and also be sure to check out our Twitch channel.
We stream every weekday. The info's in the description.
Yeah, so if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all next time.